Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, the team goes to Denver, picks up a victory in overtime. We'll talk about the game. We'll point out a couple of key notable players. Plus, we'll also show some appreciation for some Raider homegrown players. Your calls and texts will close out the show. It's all coming up on this Monday, Victory Monday, November 21st, 2022.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won, and won, and won, and won, and won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the Locked On Raider podcast free and available on all platforms. And Raider Nation, thanks so much for hanging with me. Raider Nation, I know it's been a very tough season, but the Silver and Black was able to go to Denver and pick up a victory, getting the season sweep over the Broncos, and now that is 6 in a row. And I know a lot of Raider Nation is frustrated. I'm frustrated. Everyone is frustrated. Those players in the locker room are frustrated, but salute to you, Raider Nation, for hanging with the team, hanging with me, and being able to see a victory on Sunday, something that was well-deserved. Long time coming, Raider Nation, you deserve that. Today's episode of the Locked On Raiders podcast presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com. Promo code Locked On. I'll tell you a lot more about them later on in the show, but let's go ahead and jump right into the game. The Raiders win 22-16 in overtime and improve their overall record to 3-7. And I know that's nothing sexy. That's nothing to write home about, but you got to start somewhere, right? Not saying that it's going to go and make them go on some big, long streak, but it was nice to see them get a W, something that they hadn't done in 3 games. They had a 3-game losing streak, and man, that was getting old, and it was getting tiring talking about them losing and losing and losing, especially the close score games. They're now 1-6 in close and 1-score games in the 22 season, where a year ago they were 7-2. So a big difference. And I'll tell you right now, when the Raiders had that opportunity to go down at the end of the game and tie the game, I said, here we go, another 1-score game. Are they going to be able to pull it off? And they're able to get the tie, get to overtime, get the ball, and able to score a touchdown. So hats off to the Raiders for getting the 22-16 victory. Let's take a look at the numbers real quick. Derek Carr, 23 for 37, 307 yards, 2 touchdown passes to who? Davante Adams, 7 catches, 141 yards, and 2 TDs on the day. And without Darren Waller, without Hunter Renfrow, it's really the Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams show. It's just that simple. Mac Hollins, I know he had a few catches on Sunday, but man, him and Derek Carr have looked like they've been off the whole time. They really have. It just seems like the last at least 4 or 5 weeks, they have not been on the same page. There's a lot of directions that you see Derek Carr trying to give Mac Hollins. And look, we do have to give Hollins a little bit of a break because he's not a full-time wide receiver. He's not a guy that's exactly how he butters his bread. He's a special teams guy turned wide receiver that showed a little something. And so they like what he brings to the table. But man, without Waller and Renfrow out there, it's slim pickings for the Raiders offense. You see what they are without a Waller and without a Renfrow. If they have those 2 guys back, man, that would be massive for this team moving forward. But Davante Adams got the job done. Again, 7 catches, 141 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I mentioned the other part of the show, Josh Jacobs, 24 carries, 109 yards, 3 catches, 51 yards, had that long 43-yard catch at the end of regulation that set them up for a field goal. And I love the fact that I know some people, even Mark Schlereth on the call, was like, hey, he probably should have just gone out of bounds and tried to save a few seconds. I love the fact that Josh Jacobs was trying to score. He was trying to end that thing in regulation by scoring a touchdown, and that's just who Josh Jacobs is, man. He's such a dog, and we'll talk about him more coming up in segment number 2 of the show. But between Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams, man, they balled out for the Silver and Black on Sunday. Really got to salute to them and give them a lot of credit. Speaking of balling out, how about defensively? Been very critical of the defense lately. Just been asking them to show up to the party and try to be complimentary of the offense. And look, they gave the Raiders offense every opportunity to succeed on Sunday. Now, the Raiders were going up against a very good Denver Bronco defense, so you have to realize that some of the lack of success the Raiders had offensively was because the Denver Broncos played some really good defense. But for the most part, the Raiders defense was pretty good. It wasn't great. It had moments of breakdown where you're thinking, what in the hell? Why was that so easy? But for the most part, they held their own and gave the Raiders offense an opportunity. And that's all I really ask. That's all I've really been asking. But Max Crosby, salute to him. 2 sacks on the day, a forced fumble, and a blocked field goal attempt. And the forced fumble and blocked field goal attempt were on back-to-back plays, right? Melvin Gordon's about to go into the end zone, and Max Crosby knocks the ball out. Denver recovers. Very next play, or the 2 plays later, they kick a field goal, and he blocks the field goal going into halftime. That was huge. And that's just effort. And you know what? Why that's even bigger, not just because you want a stat and you want to say that I did this or I did that, because it tells the other guys, like, what are you doing? Step your game up. Hey, I'm giving everything I got. How about you do the same? That was big. That was a big message that he sent to the rest of the players on the team. I'm doing and giving everything I got. It's time for someone else to step up. And there was guys that made some good plays throughout the course of the game on Sunday, so I could really appreciate that. But, man, Max Crosby, what a job he did. How about Tyler Hall? 1 sack on the day. Tyler who? He was activated on Saturday from the Raiders practice squad, right? And because of a Chandler Jones pressure, which is probably the only time that Chandler Jones really stepped up on Sunday, Russell Wilson had to step into it, and Tyler Hall got a sack. So the Raiders as a team had 3 sacks, of course, led by Mad Max Crosby, and the defense held the opponent under 20 points after giving up 10 in the first couple possessions. So they really kind of buckled down, and I know the Broncos offense isn't very good, so I'm not trying to sing the praises of the Raiders defense like they're all of a sudden turning the corner and there's some shutdown defense. But you give up 10 points early on in the game and only end up giving up 16 points throughout the rest of the game, or 6 more points the rest of the game, totaling 16 points. That's not too bad. I'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So shout out to the Raiders defense for doing what they do. Continuing with the numbers. Daniel Carlson, 3 for 4 on field goals, long of 57, a career high. And honestly, and we'll talk about this in segment number 2, he should have had a 5th field goal attempt. The very first offensive possession of the game the Raiders have, Josh McDaniels, I think he makes a big mistake, decides to have A.J. Cole go out and punt when he had an opportunity to send Daniel Carlson out there to kick a 55-yard field goal in Denver, right? You're in Mile High. Daniel Carlson already has proven that he can kick many kicks. I mean, he had a 56-yarder against Dallas on Thanksgiving last year. So he's already proven that he's clutch. He's proven that he's got a big leg. And I thought Josh McDaniels made an awful mistake by having A.J. Cole punt. And then all of a sudden that pins the Broncos deep. They go 92 yards to get a touchdown the first possession. I thought that was a huge mistake by McDaniels. So Daniel Carlson should have had a 5th field goal attempt. Now, he did miss one in the game, 46 yards, and that's unfortunate. It broke his streak that he was on of 41 straight. That stinks for him for that, because I know that was something he took a lot of pride in. But sometimes misses happen. Again, 3 for 4 on the day with a long of 57, getting it when you have to get it. I'm not mad at him at all. So, hats off to Daniel Carlson. Hats off to Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, Davante Adams, Derek Carr for doing their thing and leading the Raiders to their 3rd victory of the season. Real quick, on Friday, I talked about what I'll be looking for in Sunday's game. I didn't really give a prediction or keys to victory, but Josh Jacobs' continued success against the Broncos was one thing I was looking for. Check. Jerry Tillery to provide a little spark in the interior of the defensive line. He didn't really do that. He was out there for a few plays. I do like what I think I see from him, right? I mean, it's still way too early to tell, but he's got a handful of games to show what he can do. So that's an incomplete. He didn't get enough snaps as far as I'm concerned to really show a little something, but excited about Jerry Tillery and what he could potentially bring to the interior of that Raiders defensive line. Max and Chandler to get a sack on Sunday, especially Chandler, because I felt like he needed to. Well, Chandler didn't get a sack. He did get a pressure, but Max Crosby ate in a major way, as I pointed out already. And then Sam Webb, Luke Masterson, Darian Butler, the young guys, want to see what they look like. Sam Webb did not look good. Sam Webb did not look good at all. I mean, the Broncos went out there with intentions to target Sam Webb. He had a bad day to have a bad day. Now, of course, the Raiders overcame everything and were able to get the victory, but Sam Webb did not look good. He looked like an undrafted free agent out there on Sunday. So that was unfortunate. He's probably going to be called upon. I'm excited that Nate Hobbs is supposed to be coming back this upcoming week against Seattle. I think that that's a big key cog that's missing in that Raiders defense. Maybe with him out there, maybe Anthony Averett won't have to be out there as much. Maybe Sam Webb won't have to be out there as much. Maybe they can do a little bit of a rotation. So they still have issues in the secondary. You know, Rock has moments where he's good, then he has moments where he's not. Averett's been bad, and Sam Webb on Sunday was bad. Masterson, he did I thought, decent job, and Darian Butler also, I thought, did a decent job. Finally, here in segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, kind of news and notes going over, some of the highlights of the 22-16 victory for the Raiders over the Denver Broncos as Derek Carr hit Davante Adams, walked it off in overtime. I still, for the life of me, don't know how Davante Adams gets so wide open. How many touchdowns has he had this year? Whereas it's been at least 3 or 4 where he's wide open. Like, you do know 17 is a good player. You cannot allow him to be wide open, but it's happened multiple times, not just in the game against Denver. It's happened multiple times. So, again, Devontae Adams, wide open like some old school TV antennas, gets the touchdown catch, wins the game, waves bye to the fans. Derek Carr talks to Christina Pink from Fox Sports, talks to her following the game. Thought this was a nice little sideline report, post-game action with Derek Carr and Christina Pink.
All right, Derek, you are facing the stingiest defense in the league.
Yep.
OT, this game is tied, and you find Devontae.
Yep.
Can you take me through that play?
Well, it's plays like that him and I dreamed of 9 years ago in college, 10 years ago. Dreaming of playing together, dreaming of making a game-winning catch or something like that. So we're just living out our dream. I'm so blessed. I thank God for him every day, not only for the player that he is, but he's one of my best friends. So to get to have a moment like that, we'll remember forever.
You found him throughout this game, and as you mentioned, playing with your best friend, something you dreamed of for quite some time. How's the chemistry developed through you guys on field throughout this season?
Well, it's a work in progress. He sees things a certain way, I see things a certain way. We have almost a decade of football without each other, and so us getting on the same page, you saw a little bit of it today, of us being on the same page on some things that we've been working on, and super thankful and grateful for that. I mean, I have reads and stuff, but half the time he's open anyway, but I got to throw it to certain people and things like that, but that's just the type of player he is. But we think we're getting better, and that's what we're trying to do.
Derek, you guys had struggled in close games, but to win this one right after you put your emotions on your sleeve after that last loss, how did that spark this group?
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cry this time. I love the Raiders so much, and the expectation will never change from me, from everybody. And it hit me heavy that day. It was 9 years of stuff built up, I guess. Finally hit me, I guess. And the way we responded this week in practice, the way you see the love of the team in that tunnel right there. The way that we responded, it wasn't like, oh, up yours or anything like that. It was like, no, we're going to bind together. We're going to figure out a way to get done, and we did today. So thankful.
Congrats on the win.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
So there you go right there. That was the post-game interaction with Christina Pink, who was the sideline reporter for Fox on Sunday, and Derek Carr, and you hear him talking about, him and Devontae have dreamed about having those walk-off moments. And I know when Devontae Adams, was traded to the Raiders and signed with that big deal, all of us, especially myself, thought, man, they're going to have a lot of great moments. They're going to go back to that, that college relationship that they had at Fresno State, and they're going to really make some good things happen. And, you heard him right there. It's still a work in progress. Just because you have a great player and, teaming up with Derek Carr doesn't mean that greatness is going to happen immediately. I would love to see the rest of this season that continue to grow. But to Devontae's credit and Derek's credit and the Raiders' credit, I mean, Devontae Adams is having a really good season. I mean, really is. Look at all the touchdowns he has. Look at all the yards he has. I mean, it hasn't translated into wins, which is all that matters, but he's having a really good season. So there's potential there for this thing to really grow and really take off. Obviously, it's taken off a lot later in the season than any of us would have liked. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, kind of news and notes of the day. Coming up in segment number 2, going to have an appreciation segment for some homegrown players of the Silver and Black. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you about that coming up in segment number 2. Before I get to that, though, want to tell you about a couple great sponsors here on the show, including Total Wine and More. This holiday season, find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite Cabernet or Chardonnay or perfect gifts for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide. And all with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the lowest price. And it doesn't get any better than that, right? How many times do you rack your brain on, what am I going to get this person? What am I going to get that person? Well, maybe a fine wine, maybe a nice liquor, whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, it might be something that you can find in a one-stop shop. Total Wine and More. Only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery is available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Drink responsibly. Be 21. Again, Total Wine and More. I also want to tell you about Turo. And you're probably wondering, Turo? What is Turo? Well, it's the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, whether you want it from a community or local host. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., UK, Canada, and it's actually coming soon to Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Or you can find an affordable economy car if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Or how about this? Test drive that new electrical vehicle that you had your eye on and see if it, fits your lifestyle. You might think that you want to get one because you don't want to pay no money on gas. And maybe you just want to try it out first. Turo will help you. Many Turo hosts can even deliver that car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming off the heels of a Raiders 22-16 victory over the Denver Broncos for their 3rd win of the season, I want to take a little bit of time to give an appreciation segment or appreciation shout out to some homegrown players on the silver and black. And why I really want to do this is because we know how the last staff, John Gruden, Mike Mayock and company, we know how many misses they had, but they have had some key gets. They have had some guys that they got that are key players in this Raiders organization. And on Sunday, those key players stood up in a major way. And so I just sometimes don't want to get caught up in, the Devontae Adams and just how great he is, but just want to think about some guys that consistently bring it. Sometimes there's guys that will step up and they'll play good for a couple game stretch. But how about the guys that are always consistently bringing it? That's who I want to talk about here in this segment. And I want to start off with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, I've been a fan of Josh Jacobs since he was at Alabama. I was so excited to meet him in Nashville right before he was drafted by the Raiders. I asked him about getting drafted by the Raiders, and he already had that on his mind. And I'm telling you, I know last season was kind of a down season for Josh Jacobs, and I know he's been dinged up here and there, still hasn't missed as many games as I think a lot of people think he has. But man, this dude gets his 5th-year option decline. He could have gone in the corner and pouted. He could have said, I will take my ball and play somewhere else. He could have said, trade me. He could have done a whole lot of things, but instead, all he's done is bust his backside off. And I know before you tell me, Q, it's a contract year, players always play stronger in a contract year. You're not wrong. But the way he's playing, the intensity he's playing with, the leadership that he's showing, right? And I get to see it, on the regular. We don't get to see practice anymore now that it's the regular season. We saw that during training camp. But, I mean, just being able to talk to him in the locker room and seeing him out there on the field, and just you can see the intensity that he's trying to play with and the way that he's trying to talk to the offensive line that we know is pretty suspect, right? And really, I need to give a shout out to the offensive line. Colton Miller was out on Sunday, and Thayer Munford had to play right tackle the whole time. And Jermaine Illuminor, who a lot of us, including myself, have questioned, had to play left tackle. Was it perfect? No, but they did their thing. They did a good enough job. Derek was sacked one time. So I kind of side note want to give the offensive line a little bit of a love, but Josh Jacobs has just been running and really trying to do anything he can to help will this team to victory, including catch the ball, including trying to run through people's faces. And it's so funny when he does that, right? I mean, I love it. He told me in the locker room, like, I could outrun them, I could try to go around them or whatever, but I really want to make that contact so I fire up my teammates, right? I want to get everyone fired up. So when I lower my shoulder and hit someone hard, the rest of the team gets fired up. I asked Devontae Adams about that. He was like, yeah, Josh does get us fired up when he does that. I just love what he's brought to the table, and he's having an awesome season. He'll be at 1,000 yards sooner rather than later before you know it. So, I mean, he's playing at such a high level. He's going to get paid next year. The problem is he probably will end up getting paid by someone else that's not the Raiders, but I don't even care. I'm just happy for him and what he's been able to do. Again, he got his 5th-year option decline. He could have just, like I said, just gone in the corner, pouted, just done a ho-hum service, and then said, well, I'm a little nicked up. I'm going to sit this one out. He could have got mad that Zamir White and Britton Brown were both drafted, and Brandon Bolden brought in, and Amir Abdullah brought in. I mean, there's so many different things he could have done and been salty about, but he's not. So I just want to give him a little bit of appreciation. And obviously the game he had on Sunday really helped the Raiders to get to victory. Another guy, homegrown, that helped get the Raiders to victory, Mad Max Crosby defensively. What can't he do? Right? I mean, he had a defensive player of the year type game on Sunday with tackles, sacks, blocked field goal attempt, forced fumble. I mean, he had the trifecta, right? He did everything that he needed to do and then some. He had a suspect roughing the passer penalty called on him. I thought was very suspect when Russell Wilson, he slid, but he didn't really slide. So I thought that was kind of a BS call, and he got another penalty called on him, but whatever. I'm okay with that, right? Oh, it was offsides, and that was just effort. I can live with that every once in a while, right? I can. But Max Crosby has been nothing but, the dude, and he's a guy who already got paid. So, how you talk about guys, and we talk about guys in contract years, they always play harder. He got paid and is playing harder, right? He got paid and was like, I'm going to show you why you gave me this 4-year deal. I'm going to show you why you gave me all this guaranteed money. I'm going to show you why I'm a pillar to this team and I'm a guy to build around. And he absolutely is. And for most of the season, he's been the only one defensively out there balling, right? Chandler Jones got paid and he's a no-show. He had one pressure? Cleve Ferrell, I think, had a better game than Chandler Jones on Sunday. I'll shout out Clee a little bit. He's a guy that most likely would be out of there. But Max Crosby, the 4th-round pick out of Eastern Michigan, a guy that came from Colleyville Heritage High School in Texas high school football, small school, a guy that broke his hand in the preseason his rookie year and said, no, just tape it up. Let me get back in it. I want to make sure I make the team. I mean, this dude, he went from being that guy to being the dude he is now, which is an absolute leader of the squad. And, everybody doesn't lead the same way. Everybody doesn't run up and down the sideline throwing tablets and screaming at their teammates to get fired up. But when you force a fumble and you block a field goal attempt right before halftime, if that doesn't fire up your teammates, then they don't have a pulse. Then they have a problem. Max Crosby, salute to you. So, again, appreciation to Max Crosby. And the final guy is not complicated, but it's a little different because, again, I said these are homegrown guys, meaning guys that the Raiders selected, they brought in. Well, Daniel Carlson is the third guy. Daniel Carlson wasn't selected by the Raiders in the draft. He was actually drafted by the Vikings in round 5, pick 167 in 2018. And there was only 2 kickers that year that were drafted, him and Jason Sanders by the Dolphins. On September 16th, 2018, he played against the Packers. Carlson missed a field goal in regulation and 2 in overtime. So 3 total field goals he missed. The following day, the Vikings waived him, and they replaced him with Dan Bailey. And Dan Bailey didn't do very good for Minnesota either. But think about this. He missed field goals on September 16th. On September 17th, they cut him in 2018. And then John Gruden and company picked him up and signed him in October 23rd of 2018. That's when they signed him. So I know that the Raiders didn't draft him, but he might as well have been homegrown because this guy went from a dude that his confidence was shot, to being out of the league for just about a month, went and kind of invented himself, went back to the basics and redid what everything he was doing, got his confidence again. Like I said, that was the most important thing. And the Raiders have faith in him. They signed him, and he's been Cash Carlson ever since. And I know he missed a kick on Sunday. I think there was another attempt that he should have had early in the game on that first possession that Josh McDaniels decided not to trot him out there. I think that'll be the last time Josh McDaniels does that. I mean, it's just a bad decision. One, Daniel Carlson can kick a 55-yarder at Allegiant. He can kick 55-yarders anywhere. San Francisco, I don't care where he's kicking at. But in Denver, in that atmosphere, he definitely can kick a 55-yarder. So I thought that was a big mistake that Josh McDaniels made. But Daniel Carlson, you got to shout him out for what he's been able to do since the Raiders signed him in 2018 after getting released by the Minnesota Vikings. There's obviously a couple other guys I could talk about, but Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, they're both on IR right now. So I just want to give love to the guys that really showed up and showed out on Sunday. And oh, by the way, our homegrown dudes, Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby, and Daniel Carlson, all for the Silver and Black as they get the 22-16 victory over the Denver Broncos and improved to 3-7 on the season. That's all I got for you for segment number 2. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts. What's on your mind? 707-654-4693. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Prize Picks. And again, Prize Picks is daily fantasy. The thing about Prize Picks that's beautiful is that you're not playing against anybody. You're not competing against your friend. You're not competing against me. You're not competing against that guy, or that guy. It's you versus the projections. It's that simple. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport you watch: NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA. College basketball is back. How great is that? Love college basketball being back. But they got everything: MMA, boxing, Euro basketball, cricket. You know about cricket? I don't. But if you do, you can go and compete in that as well. It's all good. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada. Right now, all you got to do is download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. You deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. You deposit $50, guess what? PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget, use that promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for instant deposit match up to $100. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Just got a couple quick ones to get to on today's show. The first one is a text from Slickback Raider. Q, give a game ball to AJ Cole for picking heads for the overtime coin toss. So there you go. Slickback Raider right there wants to give out a game ball to AJ Cole. I'll give AJ Cole a game ball for what he's been able to do as a punter. I mean, again, this isn't just from one game, but he's been doing some really good things, and he's really been working on, pinning teams deep in their own territory. And he did that on that first possession against Denver when McDaniels decided not to trot Carlson out there and instead trotted Cole out there. I mean, he pinned him at the 8-yard line, which is fantastic. Problem is the Raiders gave up 92 yards and a touchdown on that possession. But shout out to A.J. Cole anyway. That was quick, so let's get one more quick text in. Text from San Diego Raider. Q, how you like that? Just win, baby. San Diego Raider. Boom. Short and sweet. Man, I love it when the Raiders win, right? There's no massive screaming and angry text or any of that, man. I can live. I wasn't living on Twitter very well on Sunday. I was getting all kind of heat sent my way until the game was over. Then once the game was over, it was funny. All of a sudden it went silent. I was like, I looked at my Twitter. I told the wife, I was like, wait, I don't get no tweets now? I've been the dartboard all day, all week long, and now I don't get no tweets. So anyway, it's all good. But yeah, it was pretty funny, man. All of a sudden, all the hate went silent after the Raiders won that game in overtime on Sunday. Up next, we got a call from Raider Fonz from Canada. He's calling to talk about the Raiders win and why he's so happy. Here he is, Raider Fonz from Canada.
Yo, Q, it's Raider Fonz from Canada, bro. How you doing? Super happy, super stoked to finally see the Raiders come out with that victory tonight. You know, like, it's amazing to finally feel happy that the Raiders can come out with the W. It wasn't a perfect game, wasn't a beautiful game, you know, but there was a lot of nice big plays, a lot of good defensive stops, a lot of good offensive plays. I gotta say, man, like, I'm just super stoked. I'm super happy to finally see our boys just walk out of a game with a smile on their faces and to see them just have that uplifting look in their face, you know, like, it looks like they're happy. It looks like they're finally joyful, not leaving a game so pissed off or angry, right? So I'm just so happy that they can finally get a W tonight. You know, like I said, it wasn't a perfect game, but they managed to get it, you know, to overtime and managed to get that win. And, well, all I can say, Q, is, you know, it's an uphill battle right now. You know, they have to go perfect. They have to go 10-7 for the season to even have a chance at the playoffs, and that's not even a guarantee. You know, they can win all the games outright, and they still might not make the playoffs with a 10-7 record. But overall, it's good to see them happy. It's good to see them get a W. So I'm so happy for that, man. And I gotta say, moving forward after this season, regardless of what happens, even if they don't make the playoffs, even if they start losing games again, whatever happens, you know, it is what it is. But I just gotta say, man, next year, I really hope the Raiders retain Josh Jacobs. I truly do. The way I see this game playing out, the way I've seen this whole season playing out, you have Carr, Adams, and Jacobs that are just consistent all year long. Yes, they had their hiccups and everything, but they're the guys that we look to get that consistent, good, you know, play always at all times. And I hope that they can retain Josh Jacobs, keep him on the Raiders roster, and hopefully next season we can go off and go crazy and, you know, get, you know, more wins, you know, get a better push into the playoffs. You know, like, I'm super stoked finally see the W, and I just hope the best. And all I can say is, just win, baby. Let's go.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And honestly, I've said it multiple times. I'm not worried about the playoffs. I'm taking this game by game by game. The Raiders beat the Broncos on Sunday. Now they got Seattle on the road next Sunday, right? I mean, as simple as that. I want to see those players have success in the locker room. They need to see wins because they're out there busting their backsides at practice. They're doing everything that they can. They've been doing it since training camp, trying to do what they're supposed to do so they can win games. They have to see the fruit of their labor and their labor. And at least on Sunday, that absolutely happens. So I could definitely appreciate that. And I'm with you, man. I'd love to see Josh Jacobs back with the Raiders next season. I'm not going to, talk about him in his pockets because he's made some money. And I don't know what the Raiders are going to do, how they're going to, approach it when he does hit free agency. Either they're going to do something to keep him in town or they're going to let him walk and hope they can get a compensatory pick, or they will get a compensatory pick. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Josh Jacobs is just cut from a different cloth, and I would love to see him stick around with the silver and black. Up next, I got a text from Caden from Reno. It says, "Hey, Q, it's Caden from Reno. The thing I just want to talk about is close games play calling has been horrible all year, especially inside the final 4 minutes. Why take deep shots in third and fourth downs at the important times of the game? It's the difference between great coaches and regular coaches. It's all about how you call the game when it most matters, and that's one-score games, and Josh has struggled with it all year. Anyway, Q, keep up all the good work. We appreciate you." That's Caden from Reno. And look, I think the play calling is good at times, and then at other times I scratch my head, right? I mean, even when Josh Jacobs caught that 43-yard pass and got the ball all the way down to, within the red zone, well, actually within the 10-yard line, right? And then they end up settling for a field goal that had to tie the game. I thought that they should have ran the ball, especially with the time that was left on the clock. I thought they should have ran the ball with Josh Jacobs at least one more play, like give him an opportunity. But again, play calling is tough, man. It's a rhythm. Everyone can't do it. I think Josh McDaniels is really good at it. I just haven't seen it really good consistently. So I understand, why you would question some of the play calling. Why I question some of the play calling. But on Sunday, they got it done one way, one house. So I think that everybody will take it. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. One more call. Brother Dre in Atlanta. He's calling to talk about the Raiders defense. And this was actually a call from late Friday, but very relevant about the defense in general. Something I've been talking about quite a bit. Here he is, Brother Dre in Atlanta.
Q, what up, man? Brother Dre in Atlanta here. Just wanted to bring up something to you here real quick. If you remember back in 2020, going into the 2021 season, you even broke down the defense, and basically the example that you brought forth was if the defense could just improve a little bit, could just be a little bit better to the point of being an average defense, that the offense would have a chance to win. And that's what really happened when Gus Bradley came in. He simplified things, and he basically put the defense in the best position to be able to win, let's say that, right? Now, you can argue, how he did it, why he did it, whatever, his scheme, maybe you don't like it or whatever. That's all cool, but the fact is that he was able to do something to get them to a better place. Well, what has happened is we have the same issue today that we basically had in 2020. Our defense is not performing it's performing at a below average level, and had we been able to make that a little bit better, our record certainly would have been reflective of it. So, when you talk about sacrificial lambs, hey, just keeping it real, boy, Patrick Graham is looking very savory right now as far as I'm concerned. So I think that something needs to change there. So anyway, wanted to share that with you. We're curious to hear your thoughts on it. Love you. Love your show. Raider Dre, out.
Brother Dre in the ATL, thanks so much for the call, my man. And you're right. That's what's so disappointing about this team's defense. If they could be somewhat good, and they were somewhat good. I know that their numbers statistically last season under Gus Bradley wasn't good, but their defense kept them in games and gave them opportunities to win them at the end. And that's really all that you could ask for. I'm not asking them to be, lights out in the 85 Bears. I guess that's the reference we always do. I'm not asking them to be that. It would be great if they were, but I'm just asking them to be somewhat good consistently. Right? Sometimes they're good and then they won't be consistently. I thought on Sunday they did a good job of being decent and giving the Raiders opportunities. They could have folded when Latavius Murray got that first down late in the game, fourth quarter, and the Raiders didn't have any timeouts left, or they had one timeout, whatever the case was. I thought it was over once Latavius Murray got that first down, but they tightened up, they buckled up. I think that the Broncos made a bad decision by letting Russell Wilson throw the ball on third down, but I digress. Not my call. And I think that Nathaniel Hackett said that after the game that he really wanted them to run the rock, but he wasn't calling the plays. So there's that. If the defense could just be opportunistic and give the Raiders opportunities. They gave the Raiders offense plenty of opportunities on Sunday, and they came through finally in overtime. Brother Dre, thank you so much for that call. I do appreciate you. And that's all I got time for on today's show, Raider Nation. Again, it's good to be talking about a victory. Can't wait to talk to head coach Josh McDaniels later on this morning to see what he's talking about. I want to ask him about that decision not to roll Carlson out there on the first possession. Not that I'm questioning the coach, but it's more like, hey, was there any thought of rolling Carlson out of there instead of kicking a field goal? Kind of what went into the thinking behind that. And he's been very good about answering questions like that. So I'll definitely ask him that later on this morning. We should be talking to him around 10:30. So there it is, Raider Nation. Do appreciate you as always. Thanks so much for making the show your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the Locked On Raider podcast free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Still working on the YouTube, still trying to figure out my mojo, trying to figure out if I'm doing things right. I had someone hit me up and say, Q, back up, man. You're too close to the camera. Cool. That'll work. I'll take that tip and I'll try to back up a little bit. My man Ari is doing a fantastic job trying to make everything go. At Ari Produces on Twitter. Make sure you go check him out. Give him some love. And we're going to keep doing what we do. So thanks for the subscriptions. Thanks for checking out YouTube or just a podcast when you do, however long you do. I do appreciate it. So till tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.